Okay.
Cause gotta laugh or gotta live. Cause
Switch off phone.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susanna Olatunji Komolafe. I'm back to you again this afternoon, and this time around we'll be talking about women in business, and how, having conversation around the theme for the International Women's Day for 2023. I have a guest with me. She is going to do a self introduction of herself, and we're going to have just talk about what equity means to us as women in business. How applicable is that to our businesses, and how do we, allow that to be inclusive of others within our business network? So, not to say too much, how are you, Barbara?
I'm very well, Susanna. Thank you so much for having me on today. Just a little introduction about myself. I'm a Polish-British national. I was born in London, traditional Polish family, World War II generation, and I was brought up as a Pole in Britain. So I had Polish friends. I went to Polish school. I went to an English school. And yeah, it was a really interesting time. So my first culture shock was when I was introduced to tea. So I was invited around to tea to someone's house, and I was expecting, a 3-course meal, which is what I had at home. And I got sandwiches and orange squash, and it was like, okay, this is new. And so when I got home, I made my mother feed me because I was really hungry. Culture is a funny thing. I also lived in many other countries, and my first husband, who unfortunately passed away, was North African. So my children are of mixed race as well, Polish, Moroccan, and yes, I've lived and worked in many other countries. I've been an expat. And I'm currently back in Poland now. So this is where I've been living in Poland now for the last 6 years. Caught up with some family here as well. And I live on the Baltic coast. So it's a tri-city area. And the Baltic Sea. So I've got the seaside. So I've got the sea about a 15-minute walk away. And I live up in the hills in the forest. So that's kind of me. What do I do? I've worked in, I started off actually in public relations and advertising. And then for somehow or other, I ended up with my husband in Morocco, meeting up with lots of different diplomats and other people, and then moving around with him in other countries, and sort of ended up working in finance. So it's from being a very artistic person to working in the financial sector was quite a challenge for me. But I did that for 12 years actually in London. And so I worked in corporates and IFIs, which is international financial institutions like the World Bank, but I worked for the EBRD. I worked at Barings. I worked at lots of other places as well, in financial institutions. And I also worked for the British Civil Service, and had some dealings with the Tony Blair government, which was quite interesting at the time. So I've met lots of women in other countries, and just seen where the gaps are in application to equity, and where women sort of are hitting the glass ceiling, and where things are happening, and what's going on. With that in mind, I decided that I didn't want to live in corporate life anymore, because it is like, it is your life. And that's why I said living, because, you know, you don't finish working until about 10 at night, and that sort of really runs you down. And so I took a master's degree in coaching and mentoring practices, and I started coaching in 2005. So I've been doing that for many years. I'm also an interculturalist. I worked with lots of expats moving around, and businesses, and funnily enough, during my time of coaching and working with expats and organizations on living and working with other cultures, many of the people before COVID who were being expatriated were women. And I
Yeah.
thought, this is really great. So the trailing spouse is now the husband and not the wife, right?
Not the wife. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really, really interesting. So whether they were in France or whether they were in the UK, and they were going to really exotic places, you know. So I thought, well, you know, equity is beginning to work slowly.
Slowly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
slowly, but it really depends, I think, on the organization that the women are working for.
Yeah.
And some organizations are still very, very hierarchical and male oriented. And I think, you know, women still have lots of challenges in some organizations. So that still is a real challenge, I think.
Yeah. Now, before you go ahead, I know you've told us, you've given us your introduction of yourself. You've told us about what you're doing, which we're going to still elaborate a little bit more about that. And now you're telling us about how applicable equity is to what you're doing. And when you said something there, and I was thinking to myself that is there anything stopping us? Is it the men that are stopping us, or are we the ones stopping ourselves, or is it the system that is stopping us, or is it cultural? Because culturally we have there's some things we feel culturally is not inclined for a woman to have any form of equity on it, whereas it sometimes it's just a system that is putting us in that position.
Yes, you're right there, Suzanne, because, you know, it depends on still, you know, if you think of an iceberg, you know, the values and traditions in some countries are still deeply held, and those are still at the really at the bottom of the iceberg, and they drive all our surface behaviors. So there are still some countries where it's deeply embedded that the man has to take care of his family. And I was recently talking to a really lovely Indian lady, and the father used to take care of everything, of his wife, of the children, of the kids, and you know, he'd go and do the shopping, he'd take care and charge of the money, of everything. And he became very ill very quickly and died very quickly. And then they were sort of left almost in isolation and almost in shock, in like, well, what do we do now? Because they were used to having him take care of them. So sometimes the system, sometimes it's culture, and it's a real challenge to actually know where it's still coming from. So it really is. It is challenging to know. I think I was lucky because it's a very patriarchal society here in Poland still.
Yeah.
And
so just for our audience to know, we're talking to you today all the way from Poland. So
yeah.
you're based in Poland. You're British Polish, yeah, but you're based in Poland at this moment. So that's why you're talking to us from the studio, which is just inside your house. Luckily for us, we could do that. Okay, so go ahead now. I know that, when you were talking there, I just want us to have a bit of clarity what equity means, different to equality, because they're two
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
Equality is about everybody having equal access to everything, whereby equity itself is about fairness. It's the application of equality. I think it's more, to me, that's the way I define it. It's about
Yes.
the application of equality. It's about being fair with regard to whatever you're doing, in respect of in whatever situation you find yourself, and to be fair to us as women. That what is fair to us as women. Um, and there's a conversation. I know there's something that was going on recently about women getting times off for their period.
Yeah.
That could be seen as equity, because it's about fairness. Do we really deserve that? Do we need to be given that? Is that fair? When is it fair to be given that opportunity to have that time off?
Well, let me
Normally, so
interject here. Let me interject here, Suzanne, because I had a friend who had a period for 2 days.
yeah.
My period lasted 8 to 10 days. And the first 3 days, I was walking around like almost in nappies. So I still went to work. And in
Yeah.
the summer, it was diabolical, because when I stood up in that train to leave the train, I was worried that it was going to be running down my legs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So in
there
your
are,
case,
so in my
would you be
case,
fair to say, yeah, because there's so many people that fall in that, whereas there's a lot of women that doesn't fall in that as well. But equity is about fairness. Like, so in general, we
being
could say
unfair.
a woman should be given the opportunity to take that time off. When I was younger, I wouldn't even know that I'm going through that. But now, when I have to go through a menstrual period now, the first few days is like hell, and I'm feeling like, okay, what's going on? Is something wrong with my body? Because my body has changed totally
Yeah.
compared to at the time, whereby and I feel this is when I'm supposed not to even feel it, but this is even when I'm like, okay, this is too much for me to bear now, and I don't even want to be at work. I don't want to walk outside the house during this period. I just want to be in the house and walk and feel more comfortable being at home rather than having to go out of the house to walk. So I can understand what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yes. And in the day when I was working as well, it was before computers. It was
Yeah.
when I first started, we didn't have mobile phones. We couldn't work from home. There was no web. There was no internet, right? So, we had to carry on and do the best we could. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so much. So, with technology moving on, which I absolutely adore,
It's,
it does make things easier. It means that, you can still have that time away from the office, and you can still work from home. You
exactly.
have that choice if you are feeling, that I don't want to go to work. If I sit down, and I stand up, my chair is going to be full of blood. It's not nice for me or for the people that are working with me,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
embarrassing and painful and all the rest of it. So
And the rest of it, yeah, yeah, you're totally right. And you feel uncomfortable to find yourself in those positions. Yeah.
exactly.
Now, just to go back again, to draw us back, and now I know we've talked about how applicable that is within your own working environment. So you were telling me there's something new that you're doing. So with
There is
with your
something
new
new.
business, yeah. So tell
Yeah,
me,
absolutely.
tell us about
Well,
this new business that you're doing, and how can we, how can people access your services? So what you're doing, you're going to give me the website. I'm going to put it there for people that might want to take advantage of that services. But what I want you to tell me more is that, what is this new business,
okay.
and how
Okay,
are you going
Suzanne.
to, how, when you in this business now, will you be conscious of what the equity means to people that will be uh in that services with you?
With equity, absolutely. It's to do with organizations, it's to do outside of organizations, it's to do with health and well-being. What happened to me was during COVID-19,
Yeah.
we were all stuck inside, right?
Yeah.
And I decided to log on to some webinars and coaching ones, and there were these really good webinars happening. And I'm kind of interested in neuroscience and coaching because one of my degrees is psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, this will be really good. I need to know more about the brain again. So I did this course, and so I'm sitting there, and suddenly one of these amazing guests that they had on, guest speakers, and was just, I mean, it blew my mind, literally. I hadn't realized that I had been living in a dysregulated state for more than 20 years. So I have had a lot of trauma in my life. And being the sort of person I am, my parents brought me up to be like really resilient. And so it's like, okay, this is happening. Just head down, get on with it, you know, push through it. So I had one of the reasons I had to leave my job and I did start coaching is because I became extremely ill.
Yeah.
And I'd never been ill in my life, and I suddenly got extremely ill. And from 2002 until 2016, I had 15 surgeries.
Wow.
And I was in and out of hospital, and I've got PTSD, and I'm really, really traumatized. And so I didn't really realize how this was affecting me, and I didn't think of myself as being traumatized until I was on this neuroscience and coaching course, and all these light bulbs and aha moments happened, and I thought, I need to learn more and more about this. And so that's what I started doing. So I let go of a lot of companies that I was working with, and I took more courses and exams. And I am putting together a course which is trauma sensitive coaching. So that is what I do. I'm putting together a program, and it is to support people going through trauma and helping them live a stress-free life, because trauma always stays with us, and there's always trauma in the room. So I have found a way of healing myself from this. So I still get triggered. I know what they are, but I know how to live with it now, and I know what's going on with me. And even my husband says, Marcus, it's like, wow, you're so much calmer than you were. And so I'm developing a program to help people, teach people what I've learned myself, so that they don't have to start looking things up and trying to find out what's happening and why they think that they're crazy when actually they're not. So that's what I'm doing. So it's helping people, supporting people, no matter who they are, along their journey to try and live a more stress-free life.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. So how so you're putting together this course, and so will it be a 6 weeks course, 2 weeks course?
8 weeks.
It'll
be
is it going to be a day course?
It's going to be.
Going to do it in form of? Are you still going to do it in form of your coaching?
It is a coaching course. It's going to be with groups of people, and it'll be in the form of a webinar, and it'll be interactive, and I'll give them people tools and and some homework to do each week, and they'll be able to contact me during the week as well, once a week as well, or more, if they need to, if they don't understand something. And at the end of the 8 weeks as well, once everything is finalized, the course itself, they will still have access to me for 4 weeks for a
Yeah.
call. So it's trying to build a community of people that can support each other, because my husband and people who know me, my friends, have been very supportive. But unless you've been through it, how can you understand really what
Yeah.
that person is going through? So you can empathize, but you don't know. It's like if you've never
Exactly.
given birth, you don't know what it's like,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah. You don't. Yeah.
no. So it's the same if you've not been through any traumatic events, and you can go through tertiary or secondary trauma as well by listening to people who have had some, or living with people who have been through really traumatic events. It can kind of that their emotions can go through to you as well, and you can start experiencing and feeling their trauma. So
Yeah.
it is
And traumas that be kind of trauma. It could be from a relationship breakup. It could just be from families and friends. It could be from your relationship with your kids, or
yeah,
growing, or with your parents, or sisters and
stuck
family.
stuck
It
in
could
an
be any
apartment
kind
with
of,
your family during COVID, I mean,
yeah.
it's, yeah, not being able to go out, not
You
being
know,
able.
a lot of things that people was unable to deal with. I think that time was, they couldn't run away from it anyway. They had to deal with it there,
I had to deal with
because
it, and a lot of people couldn't.
yeah.
I mean, and the
Mm,
worst thing of all was not being with your family if somebody passed away, right? And you couldn't be with them, and people couldn't attend funerals. I mean, it was horrible.
that was really, really, yeah, that was horrible then, really horrible then. That people couldn't do that. I felt it was totally unfair on people. Um, was it few days ago we had this women gathering, and we were talking about couples in that where they live together in the same house. Sorry, let me put this away. Sorry, I just removed that from for now. So these are couples that live together in the same house, and
Hmm.
then the wife goes into the hospital to have a child, and they're separated. They're not allowed to see each other,
Yeah,
which that was really, uncalled for, because we were talking about it. So that alone could be a trauma for a lot of women, or even fathers, or people that lost their family or wife during that period of time, but they couldn't even say goodbye because they were not
exactly.
even, yeah.
Exactly. And all the
Mm.
kids as well who, missed out on socializing with
Is
other children their own age, and
mm,
not going to school. I mean, they need that. So, it brings out other emotions. And
it does, it does.
yeah,
So do you have a website that people that might be interested, uh to avail of that coaching classes? You can share that website with me. I'm going to actually put it on this conversation, so that anybody that come across this can actually have an opportunity themselves to go there and get to see it, and then um hopefully
I've put
that
it
they will be.
into I've put it into chat, so you can just copy it if you need to.
Yes, I will do that. I'll copy it and put it into the general chat so that people can see it. So if anybody uh is out there, if you come across this and you feel that you really feel this is for you, or if you have a group of women that as well would like to come together and avail of the services, because there's a lot of women's group that might just want to do something. They're thinking of what to do, and they can that could be a collective a responsibility together, and going through that and sharing their experiences as well. Then that
Exactly.
would be, yeah.
And then what is nice is when you do have a group of people together, then they stick together, and then they can always rely on one another.
And support each other through that process as
Exactly,
well,
because
which
that's
is
what you need.
good.
That's what's missing now in communities, that support, really.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. So for people there, if you're thinking of how you can access that services, the link is on the Facebook group, our Facebook group, which we are, you know, that is where we're streaming from. You can see it there. And for those of you that might be watching us on YouTube channel, our YouTube channel as well, the link, you'll be able to see the link as well. And for the people that are on Twitter, because we're streamlining on 3 platforms, the Facebook page, Facebook group, YouTube channel, and on Twitter as well. So those links will be there for anyone that might come across it, because I know some people might not be able to see us having this conversation now, but later on the videos will be there anyway. They will be able to go there and avail of it. So we've talked about you've introduced yourself to us. You've also tell us about what you do. You've tell us about how that is equity is applicable to what you're doing. You've given us information about your business and how people can access the services that you are providing, that you're providing. So what I want you to, just define how do you embrace equity? How do you embrace it as a woman in business, and in general as a woman that is a game changer, because from your experience now, you, you can see that it's it's different being a woman, and I know sometimes that might sound look as if, oh, men are men, but it's different being a woman, because
It
I
is.
feel we have a lot of responsibility.
We do.
um yeah, and then after that we still have to survive. We want to be able to support our homes, or support ourselves adequately and support our home, so that we don't become a burden within our own home or to our children, and that's the reason why you're still working and going out there. So let's just see that part of your, how do you share that with us?
What does embrace equity mean for me? I As you say, I mean, fairness. I mean, that is really it's trying to be fair. It's trying to be equitable with others
Yeah.
and otherness. We are all human beings, and I think sharing and helping and belonging, and those things are important for me. And I think women should always be there to help other women in fairness, in gratitude. And what upsets me sometimes is women sometimes fight against women, and I find
We
that,
do. We do that all the time.
yeah, and
We do it.
and
Really do
it
it
would be
that.
nice if we need to rally and be together. We need to help each other. We need to help each other, Suzanne.
We do need to help each other, but what I see is that at the same time we can't be selfish with our own needs, self needs. um but you're totally right. Sometimes I am an advocate for women supporting each other, how important it is for us as women to stand with each other. But at the same time, even when I'm in that element of my, I can see that we actually don't really support each other. We
We
say
don't.
it a lot. It's really
We do.
alarming. We
I
say
can
it a
tell
lot,
you,
but we come rather than what we do is instead of supporting each other, we compete against one another. That's
we
what I
do.
see.
We do, Suzanne, but I can tell you that I have always been a person that is happy to share and give. And I very rarely get that back. Even in coaching, with other coaches, and I find that very frustrating and disappointing. And those are the values I've taught my daughter, who is an amazing woman. Absolutely. If I've done one thing right in my life, that is bring up this amazing woman. I'm so proud of her.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, I feel really sober because I know, I'm just thinking of it, and I can relate to what you're saying in terms of you giving yourself to people but not getting that as much back. I can
Yeah.
totally relate to it in so many ways. And I've come to, and you were talking about you love to share and you're not afraid to share. That's one part of us as women that we just can't do. We can do so many. We don't want to share. The idea of sharing is just something that we don't want to, because we want to say we are if we're unique in our own ways as women, but that doesn't mean um we can't be liberated, and we don't need to compete against one another. We can all be as an individual as women and still be significant. We can
Exactly.
and still be significant without any, because I think sometimes the reason why is hard for us to share is that we feel we won't be significant. And I, I've seen a lot of us as women, we do all these women empowerment, women doing this. And sometimes when I go to these programs, sometimes, and I'm like, okay, it's like the reason most women are there, they're not really actually there to come and support you, but they're there to come and see how they can compete against you, and be more significant rather than to be relevant. Because yes, if we all support each other, then we become relevant everywhere we are. But that doesn't take away from us still being significant, because each of us is unique in our own way as a person anyway. Yeah. So I'm hoping that, now that this conversation is going on about equity, is it equity? Yeah, am I pronouncing it well? I always have to think twice to pronounce it. So is that uh, that we really get it, we understand the fairness in it. We know that it's, because it's something that um we need to be conscious about the way we approach, the way how applicable it is in our life, because we do a lot of talking, but we have to put the action into place.
Exactly. You have
Yeah.
to walk the talk.
Walk the talk. Yeah. Yeah, really, we have to walk the talk. So I'm actually I'm happy that we have the opportunity to have this conversation, and I'm hoping that a lot of people that will come across it, and those that are watching us now live on Facebook. I'm trying to figure out those that are watching us while I'm talking to you there. So yeah, I'm hoping that uh they will uh they will take something unique out of this, that we as women, we can all be relevant and still be significant. That it is important for us to understand that sharing, supporting each other, being by each other's side, and being able to talk to one another, understand one another, and it really doesn't take away from our being significant, because that still gives us, we will still be unique and significant in our own way. But the
But
most important thing is that working collectively together allows us to be relevant And when you're relevant, it
Exactly.
lasts for long. It's there.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping they will take something from it. So what do you want to do? What do you want to give away for women that are in business, celebrating the International Women's Day, women around the world, mothers, sisters, aunties out there that are celebrating? Uh, what do you want to give to them as a takeaway? And also, men, how do they become allies in this journey of equity?
Well, men are an important part of our lives. You know, they're our yin to our yang, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I love my husband dearly. I'm very lucky that I've had two great loves in my life, two husbands, right? You know, you lose one and then
you gain a
another
bigger
comes
one.
in your life. So from that perspective, but you know, I think the most important thing that you've been saying is about, you know, we're all individuals and we are significant, and we just have to take care of what, not worry about what someone else is doing.
Yeah,
Be conscious and be aware of what you want to do, because that's what's important. Choose what
yeah,
you want from life, choose what you want to do, choose your direction. Don't look at someone else just because they're doing something else. Don't listen to what someone else is doing, because not everybody tells the truth, do they? I mean,
yeah,
you know, we know
yeah.
about Facebook and people saying, oh, look at this wonderful life I'm leading, but are they? You know, take stock of yourself, have confidence
Yes,
in yourself, believe in yourself as an individual, because if you have that self belief, you can achieve anything.
you could, you will, not even you could, you will achieve anything.
You will
And
achieve.
you said it totally right there. Focus on you, because what
Focus
you are
on
doing
yourself.
yes, what you are doing is relevant, and that's what will make you significant in your own field. So if you
Exactly.
focus on what, yeah, I think that's something I'm really, I think, just I'm also going to take away from that, that if you focus daily on what you're doing, give your best to what you're doing, because then you will be known for what you're doing anyway,
Yeah.
because we can't really compete with, there's no need to compete with each other, because
No.
we're all individuals, and we're all good at whatever we do if we put our
Whatever we
best
do.
into it. Yeah, if you put
Exactly.
your best into it, then you will
Put your
stand out
passion, put your
into
passion
it.
into what you
Yeah,
love doing.
yeah,
Do your best. There's
yeah.
no right or wrong.
No.
Just do your best. Take care of yourself and your family, and love and honor your family. And you know, you should have a really interesting and adorable life.
So as we come to the end of the conversation, thank you very much, Barbara, for joining me this afternoon for this
Thank
conversation.
you, Suzanne.
What I would like you to talk about is that, what role do you think businesses can play in creating more equitable society? So you can give us one key role that you feel businesses can play. You have a business, you're a woman in business. What role do you think we can play to have an equitable society? And I know you've said it, even from the fact that you said that we should focus on what we are best at doing. So if you have any kind of business, so I know you've said it, but just to give us more insight into that, and we can take that home as something that we can look up to.
Yeah, businesses should put the right people into the right jobs. Um, and businesses should be more open and not frightened of new things, of diversity, because diversity then brings more empowerment to the business. You know, if you're just ethnocentric and just thinking about, you know, small vision, then you're going to stay small. But if you open yourself out and you're open to newness, to otherness, then that enriches your organization and your company. So accept diversity.
That is just excellent. Accepting diversity, and that will give us an equitable society.
It
You know,
will.
it will give
It
us an
will.
equitable society. So thank you very much. Before you go, thank you very much, Barbara Sinclair, for joining us this afternoon. We've been
Thank
talking
you,
about
Suzanne.
women. We've been talking to women in business, and she's one of the women in business in our community. And we've come to a conclusion this afternoon to say that businesses should apply um, diversity in their businesses to allow for an equitable society whereby we can thrive well in what we do. And one thing that I would take away, and I don't know what any of my audience will take away from it, is that focus on what you're doing that you're very good at. Give your best to it. Let your passion shine through whatever you do. You will remain significant, and what you do will be relevant to the people that would love to, people within you or people around you will embrace it. So thank you all for watching us. We will see you again next time. And as we all celebrate International Women's Day, because the month of March is really the month for women, Mother's Day is just around the corner. So I'm going to say Happy Mother's Day to mothers all around the world.
Thank
Um,
you.
all around the world.
Gotta laugh or gotta live. 'Cause gotta laugh